can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
Now, I'd like to think, Don, that we've been on this for almost a year, maybe longer than this, about the I Cook Food saga. And it is... We noticed in the press, we did announce it a little last week, Don, but we didn't want to preempt Ian Cook announcing it officially because we're just small fish here, small fry. But Ian Cook has announced that he's going to stand against the Premier in the upcoming state election, based on the fact that, I'm not putting words in his mouth because he's sitting beside me, based on the fact that this is about the most corrupt and dishonest and culpable government in the history of governments around the world, led by Dan Andrews, and he's going to stand against him because his company has personal experience about how they have been rorted out of a private enterprise business, collapsing their business in favour of a government-run community organisation, putting disabled people who they employed out of their chef's business, and he has had enough, and with a bit of support he's going to stand against Dan Andrews in the upcoming election. So with the announcement that's already been made in the press, welcome Ian to You Cannot Be Serious. We've had you on a number of times, and tell me how it's going.
Thank you very much, Sam. Thank you for having me on again. It's going very well. I expected a certain amount of media and support after the announcement on Monday, but it's been spectacular, the number of people who have come forward and offered to help. So hopefully we can galvanise that. I mean, at the end of the day, you hit the nail on the head. It's the most corrupt state government, I think, certainly in my living memory, probably I'm a little younger than you, but in yours too, I'm guessing. Ending the corruption is one thing, but it's also ending the fear. I mean, this government operates on fear. When you've politicised the police, you've politicised the judiciary. People are scared to come out and say anything against you. This just has to stop. And at the end of the day, the people of Mulgrave have the power, because shortly Daniel Andrews stops being Premier and he just becomes a candidate, just like myself and everyone else. And the people of Mulgrave, and they're all, it's a great area, they have the power to stop this now.
He's got an 8% of margin at the moment. Do you think you can cut that back?
Absolutely, because Don, what I'm doing is I'm not going into this election campaign as a traditional...
Independent, are you?
I'm going in as an independent, but not as a traditional, if you like, politician. I'm going in on the basis that of this corruption and of stopping that. I'm not going in on the basis of some party, political right or left. It's not about right or left. This is about right and wrong, and corruption's always wrong. So we get rid of the corruption, we get rid of the fear, and we try and help rebuild Melbourne, and that could start with Mulgrave. I think the people of Mulgrave have to realise just how important this is for them.
So they'll ramp up all the opposition they can. They'll say, oh, well, you don't live in the electorate, and the reason you don't live in the electorate or have just lived in it because you got rorted out of your house because you had to sell it to try and defend yourself against court action.
Slightly different to that, Sam.
Good, thank you.
I did have a house in the electorate, but we sold it when Community Chef first started because we lost so many contracts.
That's what I just said.
Sorry, I had a choice to make at that time, whether I tipped the money in the business or just sold my assets and walked. I didn't. I tipped it in the business. We kept the jobs going, and we survived and actually ended up beating them.
Ian, how are you going to fund this campaign? Because to run for any election politically, it costs a fair whack of money. There's a bit more money involved than people might think.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, it's a very expensive exercise to do it properly, Fiona. So what we'll be doing is we will have a website up in the next day or so. We'll be asking people to have a look and give what they can, whether it's a smaller donation or up to the limit. But you bring up an incredibly important point. One of the things, and I'll announce this here today, one of the first things I will do when I get elected is to run a private members bill and make the Parliament discuss and debate the Electoral Act again. This Electoral Act is just discrimination personified. Don Scott could give me $4,300. That's the maximum Don could give me, and that's got to be over a 4-year period, right? He can give it up front, but it's for 4 years. He can't give any more. Now, for that, he then has to notify the Victorian Electoral Commission that he's done it. He has to give them his address. He then he goes on a public list. I, within 21 days, have to do exactly the same. It's very onerous. Any donation between 1,080 under 1,080 can be anonymous, but it can only be from one person. Now, you say, okay, well, if that applied to all candidates and we went back to grassroots of knocking on doors, a few brochures, saying hello to the locals, all the stuff that I will be doing, that would be fine. But there's an exemption in this Act, and the exemption is for an affiliate of a political party who has voting rights in the party. Guess what? That's the trade union movement. I've got nothing against trade unions, but they can give any amount of money they like to the Labor Party. There is no other party that's set up like that. This Act is literally discrimination. The other thing that I say it is that it's cheating. If you change the rules, you guys all know football, if one particular club manipulated or changed the rule to help it and not the other clubs, that would be cheating. That's what Daniel Andrews has done. And one thing Australians don't like is cheats.
Can I say so? I'm really happy that you're standing, because I am a member, or was a member, of the Victoria Party. You are qualified, in my view, having run a small business or a business, far more adept than these people who've come up as wage earners, who've come through the system, whether it be as lawyers, doctors or whatever else. They don't really know business. But the Labor side have come up through the various social organisation or unions, have always earned a wage, never had to stand on their feet. So I think you're adequately qualified, having a bit of knowledge in all areas. And you've just brought up a point that I was a bone, I was going to bring it up. But the Liberal Party was also involved in this back in, I think, 2018, where they, together with the Labor Party, passed this Act. So are they just as bad as what the Liberal Party are as far as the donations are concerned? Because that's why this Victoria Party went out of business, because of what you have just said.
Yes, so it is pretty onerous. I've had a couple of people who've said, they'd like to donate more than the amount, but they can't, and that's just wrong. In terms of that, I'm not sure, but I've been told that the Liberal Party actually voted against this legislation. This legislation was got through in the upper house because of the independents. And that's the other thing, which I'm glad you brought that up, Don. That's the other thing that we will be absolutely hammering in the electorate of Mulgrave, is be very, very careful. I don't mind if you don't vote for me. I would like you to, but if you don't, you don't. But please don't vote for Daniel Andrews, and be careful of other independents, like, the Voters and Fishers Party. They got a minute vote. They got in the upper house.
Is that Andy Medic? Is that his name?
Yeah, he's one of them. But the point is that by playing around with preferences, you can get someone who is effectively just another way of getting votes back into the Labor Party. Now, as I said before, not interested Labor or Liberal. I'm only interested in stopping corruption and making this work for the people of Mulgrave. They can have a huge independent voice if they can have a huge and independent voice if... Sorry, Sam.
Oh, it's unbelievable, isn't it?
Keep going, Ian.
Well, answer it.
If they put an independent in, they will have their own voice in the Parliament, and we will be able to bring private members' bills. We will get issues that will then be covered and debated in the Parliament. And the important ones for me are going to be small business, because the Food Act, apart from the Electoral Act, which I've just discussed, the Food Act needs to be changed again. The laws that closed us down and that we used illegally, they're all still there. That needs to be cleaned up and stopped. And that Act also has corruption written into it. It is the only Act of Parliament in Victoria where if a council levies a fine or takes you to court rightly or wrongly, and that fine is levied, it is guaranteed. There is a part of the Act that says that money goes back to the council that did it. You can't have that. I mean, there are lots of good health inspectors out there that would never abuse the Act, but then there's always the few. And when you write this into an Act, you open it up for corruption. And that has to stop, because every food business in the seat of Mulgrove is at risk, as is the rest of Victoria.
Just speaking about, sorry, Don, speaking about courts, are you still, is your court, Supreme Court action still active?
It's still going. It's
Yes.
So what happened with that? We were supposed to have a court date in February. That got vacated. Through discovery, we found some new information, so we wanted to amend our statement of claim. The statement of claim went before a registrar. That registrar took 4.5 months to make a decision as to whether we could just amend a statement of claim. Now, there was no court date, so there was no disadvantage for the defendants. But no, it took that long, and then we got a 64-page decision that discussed the reasoning behind knocking out the things that we wanted to put in, which we had in discovery. It was, it wasn't us. They gave us this information, which meant we could update our statement of claim. Top barristers, top lawyers, top everyone look at it, and nobody, for the life of them, can understand why this was done. Unless, of course, you join the dots and say, who would want our case heading before the courts prior to an election?
Okay, so...
Well, could I just say,
Of
the
course, Don.
Labor
Yes,
Party,
go right
do you
ahead.
think it's do you
speak
think they're
now.
all on the same page? Because there's been a lot of senior ministers over the last couple of years that have resigned. I mean, the top echelon.
Yeah, interestingly enough, if you actually look at the Labor Party, the people that left are actually what I would call the moderates, and the people in the Labor Party that would put their hand up for small business and for jobs, etc. They're the ones that have left, and that's scary. That's a worry, because at the end of the day, Labor Party values of helping workers, protecting the vulnerable, they're the core values. They're the things that are good about the Labor Party. But they're out the window now, because this particular Premier, he is only interested in his own power base, his own financial advantage. He's not interested in the normal Labor voter. It's...
Well, at the end of the day, which is about where this is ending now, Don, Ian, you just tell us if people want to contribute. No, I don't know what you said about $4,300 being the top amount, but how do they contribute if they want to? So tell us that. And then I want to play you something, which just at the end of this, which will give you an idea of where this state's headed, but you might find it interesting. So how do you get...
Okay, so under the electoral rules, I have to have a bank account set up specifically for donations. So I'm not sure whether could we put that on your website? Anyway, right.
Well, of course, you can't mention it now.
Oh yeah, no, we can. We will have a website which I believe will be Ian the Independent. So Ian the Independent,
Yep.
one word. It's not up. Don't look for it today.
Yep.
I believe it's going to be up by Friday or Monday. So
Ian the Independent.
Ian the Independent.
Right. Oh, yep. Ian the Independent.
And
Okay, so anything else you want to mention? Then I want to play this. This doesn't require a comment. This is just I'm going to tack this on at the end of when we finish here. So you might find this interesting. And this is about what's happening in this state, but it's a parallel to New Zealand.
I just have one final question for you, Ian. We saw the Teals put together a very organised team that went out, door knocked, door knocked Kooyong. It was an incredibly organised team. How many people have you got in your team, or are you literally doing this yourself?
Okay, so yes, a lot. I am doing a lot myself, but no, we have a big team. We have like the 2 retired detectives that were helping me through the first part of what happened to I Cook Foods, etc. They're behind me. I've got Emily Coltrane is helping me. So yes, it's going to be coordinated. They also, through the Police Veterans Association, have got other people who've come on who are very good organisers. We've had lots of support in terms of people offering physical labour, which is what we're going to need. So yes, it's turning into quite a bigger team than I thought I would have. Yes, it's there. All other support, anyone wants to contact us and support us, no problem at all. Looking for any of it.
Okay. Well, now, Don, I'm going to we finished now, so I'm going to play this. You might find this a bit extreme, but this is, I reckon this is worth playing for whatever reason. So thank you very much, Ian Cook, coming in, the new independent challenger to the Premier.
I think you might surprise a few people, my friend.
I hope so, Don. That's what I intend doing.
So I'm going to just play this, and then this will be inserted into the podcast, Don. So you might find this interesting. So here we go.
Wake up, New Zealand, before it's too late. Remember Khrushchev's prediction? This is a sobering reminder. It's almost 62 years since Russia's Khrushchev delivered this. Many of you may not remember his quote, or even were alive when Mr. Khrushchev of the Soviet Union made his remarks. On September 29, 1959, here was his entire quote. Your children's children will live under communism. You Americans are so gullible. No, you won't accept communism outright, but we'll keep feeding you small doses of socialism until you finally wake up and find you already have communism. We will not have to fight you. We will so weaken your economy until you will fall like overripe fruit into our hands. The democracy will cease to exist when you take away from those who are willing to work and give to those who would not. Ian goes on. Remember, socialism leads to communism. So, how do you create a socialist state? There are 9 levels of control. Read the following recipe. 1. Healthcare. Control healthcare and you control the people. 2. Poverty. Increasing the poverty level as high as possible. Poor people are easier to control and will not fight back if you're providing everything for them. 3. Debt. Increase the debt to an unsustainable level. That way you're able to increase taxes and this will produce more poverty. 4. Gun control. Remove the ability to defend themselves from the government. That way you're able to create a police state. Number 5 is welfare. Take control of every aspect, food, housing, income, of their lives, because that will make them fully dependent on the government. Education. Take control of what people read and listen to, and take control of what children learn in school. Religion. Remove the belief in God from the government and schools, because the people need to believe in only the government knowing what's best for the people. Class warfare. Divide the people into wealthy and the poor. Eliminate the middle class. This will cause more discontent and will be easier to tax the wealthy with the support of the poor. And number 9, control the media. Not much left for our comrade Jacinda to do. As I read through each point, I realized, while I was reading, just how far we have followed that road. It really is quite devastating. I leave it with you.